Hey everyone, it's Nicole, and today I'm back with another NES reproduction project. Today, using the items on this table, we are going to transform this copy of Flying Dragon into a copy of the California Raisins, which is a prototype game that was never commercially released. So let's get started. So in case you're wondering how I know that I can use a copy of Flying Dragon to make a copy of the California Raisins, I'm using a site that I found out about through John Riggs's videos, and it's the NES cart database, and it lists all the NES games and what mapper they use and what board they use. So as you can see, Flying Dragon uses a unROM board, or an unROM board. And looking at the California Raisins entry on the same site, we can see that it also takes a unROM board, or unROM, however you pronounce it. So, I'm going to open up the cart, take off the chip for Flying Dragon, and put on an EEPROM that has been programmed with the California Raisins. So the first thing we need to do is open up the cartridge, which I have here. So to open up this cartridge, and most NES cartridges, you're going to need a 3.8 millimeter security bit, which is what this is. So, I'll undo these 3 screws. And here's our board. So here is the PRG chip, and this is what we're going to be removing and replacing. And you can see at the top it says unROM right there at the top to let you know what kind of board this is. And where does it say PRG? It says PRG right above that chip. You can see it there. So the first thing I have to do is desolder this chip, and after I do that I'm going to go ahead and clean up the board. Okay, to desolder the PRG chip I'm going to use a Hako, I guess is the pronunciation, FR300. I highly recommend something like this over like the cheap desoldering tools you can get from Radio Shack. I had a lot of problems with those, and this just makes things so much easier and really reduces the risk of screwing up and pulling up a trace or breaking off a pin, something like that. So you just put it over the pin. Sucks up the solder once you pull the trigger. It's much, much easier. And especially with the NES games, which don't want to come off as cleanly as like a Genesis game. I think this just saves some headaches. Okay, I have one pin that is giving me troubles. So what I'm going to do is heat up my soldering iron and use that to melt the solder there and hopefully get that pin up out of there. Let's try this. There. So that is out. Problem is that hole still has solder in it. So, oops, did not mean to hit the camera. Let's see if I can suck that bit out. Otherwise, it's gonna make it difficult to get the EEPROM in there. That almost has it. Yeah. I think that's clear enough. And while we're at it, this resistor here on the end needs to be switched because we'll be using a 32-pin EEPROM, and this is only 28 pins here, so it's going to extend a little bit out. So we have to remove this resistor. I can't believe I just cut that on camera. That was bad. Let's use my X-Acto knife to bend this up a little bit. Okay. So, let's do this. Okay. And grab some solder. We're going to switch this over to the back side. Alright, so that is switched over. Let's solder it in place. Alright, so now we have that resistor on the back side. One thing I like to do after I get the ROMs off is go ahead and label them in case I would want to use them again in the future for whatever reason. So, erase what I had in here last time. We'll put in Flying Dragon print. And these are usually a little bit too long. So we'll grab some scissors. And now I have this labeled in case I would want to use it again in the future. I don't know why, but I have it in case I do. Okay, well let's move on to programming the EEPROM. Okay, so this is the EEPROM burner that I use. It works really well. I also have the adapter that I can use to do Genesis games because they won't actually fit in this burner without the adapter because they're 42-pin EEPROMs, and I think this can only fit maybe a 40. Anyway, let's put in the EEPROM that I'm going to use. It is a 32-pin EEPROM. It's a 27C010, and it can store up to 128 kilobytes or 1 megabit. So let's put that in there and let's lock it into place. Alright, I just erased this EEPROM last night, but let's make sure. So let's switch over to my desktop, and I have the programming software up. Let me move it where it's more in frame. Alright, so first I need to choose what device we're using. And so I'm just going to type in E7C110. We use that one. Select. Okay. So now that that is done, let's see if I can make this look a little bit better. I'm going to just check to ensure that the EEPROM is in fact blank. So I'm going to click here for the blank check. Alright, and I got the message that the chip is blank. So now all we need to do is prepare the ROM file. So I'm going to use FemiROM, and let's load up what I'm going to use. It's a UNROM, and I've got the ROM in there for the California Raisins. Let's scroll this over so you can see. So I've selected that. I'm going to click open. And there's the information. It is going to be 128 kilobytes. It's only going to do a PRG file, or yeah, a file for the PRG chip. So all I need to do now is hit split. And now that I've done that, I now have this file, which you can see in the file name. It's a PRG, and it's for 27C010, which is what we'll be using. So now that that is done, all that I need to do is go back to my EEPROM burning software, open up the California Raisins, hit OK, and everything's ready to go. So I just need to click the W here to write. And those write pretty quickly, since they're only 128 kilobytes. But while that's burning, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the board. Although it should still be clean, I'm sure that I cleaned this up at some point, because it's a game out of my own collection. But just to make sure, let's go ahead, use some alcohol. Just to make sure that those connectors are clean. And my EEPROM has finished writing, and as you can see, it has been verified. So now we're ready to take the EEPROM out, put it on the NES board, and wire it up. Okay, so here's my programmed EEPROM. Since I don't want this to be erased, I'm going to cover up the window here. This is how EEPROMs are erased, UV light is used, and I'm going to cover that up so there's no chance that the game that I've programmed will get erased. So, let me get a piece of electrical tape. And there. Have that covered. Now, since this won't fit, I'm going to have to bend up some pins. So I have to bend up pins 1, 2, 31, and 32. So all these pins need to be bent up. In addition, pin 24 needs to be bent up. So this is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So that is bent up as well. Now before I can put this on the board, I need to solder a wire to the hole where pin 24 would have gone. And I think it's pin 22. I just know that it's the 7th one back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's this one. So I'll put that in there. Let's do a quick soldering job. Okay, so now that that wire is soldered, we can go ahead and put the EEPROM on here. Now this may take a bit. The pins on these have been pretty straight, and I haven't had to do much to get them to go in. I think I may have to, because I think there's still too much solder on this, in that hole. See if I can heat that up and get this to go through. There we go. All right. Now that all of those are in, let's go ahead and solder everything. Okay, so I have the chip soldered on. Now I need to take this wire and connect it to pin 2. So I'm going to provide a little bit of slack. So cut it about there. Strip the end off. Stripped off a bit too much. All right. Let's get a little bit of solder on the wire. I'm going to put a little bit on the pin. Okay, so that's soldered. Now, I need to take pin 24, and that needs to be soldered to pin 16. Let's go about it this way. Alright, and I'm going to run this around the back. Put you out of the way, because there's pin 16. Act like you didn't see that. Here's a tip. Don't put lotion on your hands right before doing something like this. Turns out you don't get a very good grip. Okay. So that's soldered there. Let's just solder to pin 16 first. There we go. I'm going to cut a lot of this out because this is pathetic. Okay, one final thing. Pin 30 needs to be soldered to pin 32. We'll solder there. A little bit on pin 30 there. I know some people don't bother with a wire for this. The last thing I want to do is screw up and like break off a pin. Trying to get 32 over to 30. So we're going to do it this way. Sorry, hit the camera again. The lighting in here is not good. Alright. Let's cut you. Okay. Let's turn you around a bit. There we go. Okay, everything is soldered. Now I am going to have to bend these down a little bit so that they fit, because it is a very tight fit in the cart because it's not made for a 32 pin EEPROM. And I found there are people, I guess, who don't do this modification to the cart, but I just found that I couldn't get the board with the EEPROM to fit in here unless I modified this over here a bit. So what I'm going to do is cut that and that. My X-Acto knife to clean it up a little bit. Okay. Now that that is done, let's put the board in. Start here and have to bend this over just a little bit. Get that to fit in there. See, that's part of the reason that wire does not need to be right there. Okay, let's put this back on. Got a wire caught underneath there. Yeah, this is my third time doing this, so it's not quite, I'm sorry. I haven't quite got this perfected yet, the whole process, but there, that should be good. Put that in there. One thing that I did not check, ugh. Let's see, the California Raisins is a vertical ROM. So it's blocked the horizontal, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is right. I don't have to switch that solder point, which is good. Okay, let's switch on the TV, or switch this over to my TV, instead of it being on the computer. Put that into the Nintendo. Alright, let's hope this works. I have a feeling that one of those wires came undone. Alright, let's take it out. This is why you do not screw everything back together until you test to see if it works. Okay, so after opening the cart back up, I found one pin that I hadn't soldered. So hopefully this fixes it. And look at that. We have the California Raisins. I have never played this game before. But there you go. My very own California Raisins Repro. So now all I need to do is go ahead and make a label for it. There you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.